call the Development Operations Committee meeting for Tuesday, August 26th to order. Roll call, please, Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Nicholas.
Present.
Mr. Bossert.
Here.
Ms. Bernard. Ms. Schmidt. Here. Mr. James.
Present.
Mr. Marcotte. Mr. Folin.
Yeah.
Mr. Trick.
Here.
Mr. Vickery.
Present.
Ms. Wiskowski. Mr. Whitus.
Present.
Mr. Yates. Mr. Cruz. Mr. McLaren.
Quorum is present. Any public comment? Seeing nothing important. Look for approval of the minutes from May 27, 2008. Motion made by Mr. James, seconded by Ms. Schmidt. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's try that again. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Facilities Manager, Mr. Hart, welcome.
Yeah, well, so good.
Yes. That was the first thing I say. We replaced the center sidewalk at the courthouse. Looks good. It turned out very nice, and we're going to work on getting some more sidewalks done around there and then before the year's out. We've been trying to keep up with the yard, grass. I don't know. Some days it looks good, some days it doesn't, but we're trying to keep up with it. One of the subjects that's on here is the courthouse generator. I'll give you a little update on the power outage. You guys know about when we had the storms come through and the power outage. We were at the courthouse and the old jail. In the new jail, we were down to single-phase power in most of those buildings, and we were running the generators. Had a little trouble with the generator at the old jail. Had a water pump go bad in the middle of it running. We got it fixed. It's back up again and running properly, but we had some issues. Now, at the courthouse, we did not have any power, or we had partial power. We had one phase of the three-phase 208 system running, which gave us some lights, a few other things worked. But the facility wasn't really up to speed. We didn't have any air conditioning, we had partial power, and the fire system wasn't working in part of the building. That's what constitutes the next step, the courthouse generator, and we'll talk about that when we move on. Do you want to move right to that subject now?
Let's see if anyone else before we start bouncing around there. Any other questions for Mr. Hart? All right, Maintenance Director is not here right now. We'll go to old business, and our old business first is the courthouse generator then.
Okay.
Ms. Haley, I know, and Ms. Haley's here. Judge Erickson had asked for this to be on the agenda today.
I did a little research on this and tried to figure out where we were at with this. This started in July of 2004. Mr. Duvall brought it up with the newer software systems and communications around the county that we needed some type of backup system. In August of 2004, we approved $9,000 to do a study by Bob Bowman. That's what I handed out to you guys, that study. There was a discussion in September of 2004 about where we were going to get the money, but we hadn't got the study back from Mr. Bowman. January 4th of 2005, the study came back. It was discussed, but it was tabled due to, just so you could read the information and discuss it. January 26th of 2005, there was a motion to send out for bid for a natural gas generator, and the motion carried. Now, at that point, Gilbert Miller went out and got some information on the usage of natural gas at the courthouse, and to find some type of natural gas service to service the generator. I don't know all the details of that. I do remember that the cost was prohibitive, and it was going to cost nearly as much to put the high pressure gas line in as it was to put the generator in. After that, it kind of fell through the cracks and never got taken care of. That's where we're at with this today. I've got, I handed you the study. I went and took some pictures of the discussed locations on the south side of the courthouse. I have contacted Lance Herrera at ComEd. He's my contact. He's going to give me the guidelines of what it's going to take to hook up the ComEd with the generator, and the transfer switch and all that stuff, so we can move forward with trying to get some data together and get something done with this.
Mr. James, good morning.
Thank you. I'm a little concerned on this because what did we do before? Whenever we had bad storms, it shut down, correct? Courthouse shut down?
Yes.
Okay. So if Mr. Duvall comes up, we have installed computers, and the computers are an important independent thing, and we gotta keep them maintained and running. So we discussed bringing in and having a power system put in, so this particular system can survive the storm without disrupting anything, so when they come back to work. And now it's beginning to snowball into a major expense for how many days a year do we ever shut down the courthouse because of bad weather? Plus, under the severe conditions that we had, how many employees would have came in anyway? So I'm a little miffed as to why we're pursuing this any further than what the original objective was, which was to maintain the computers. Now, if it accommodated that, and it did that, then it did its job. Now, why are we wanting to go further in on it, on something we haven't done a cost analysis on yet as to whether or not it'd be justifiable?
That's good. Ms. Bernard. First of all, wait a minute, excuse me, hang on, I mean, I can't tell you, Stan, like I said, Judge Erickson asked for this to be put on the agenda, so I can't answer that. I didn't want to just leave it without an answer. I'm sorry, Ms. Bernard.
Oh, no, that's okay. I have to concur with Stan. I think we should do a cost analysis. How often do we close the courthouse down? I agree it's necessary to have something in place so that the computers, do not lose their records, that's maintained. So I think that's what we need to look at, because, this is not a perfect 100% world. There are always going to be times where an office may close for a day or two based on weather, whether it's summertime or wintertime. The other thing is, I just see that we're looking at only 2 types of generators, diesel or gas. There are wind-powered generators out there now, and I think it would be worth exploring. They're wind turbines, and they're actually generators that you can purchase. So I think that's an option we need to look at too.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Foster, good morning.
Morning. As far as the rationale on needing the generator for the courthouse, my recollection is, and as I reviewed the minutes, Mr. Duvall wasn't saying just to run computers internal to the courthouse. He was looking ahead to the day when the integrated information system would be in place, and the entire criminal justice system relies on having a centralized database up and running at all times. And the thought was that this database, the server, would be located in the courthouse. Isn't that, am I thinking correctly on that? In other words, the sheriff, the deputies, the jail, all the components of the criminal justice system would all be keyed into one central database. And if one portion of that goes down, the whole thing goes down. That was his big concern at the time. My counter to that is, my question is, well, why do we need to put the server in the courthouse? Why don't we have the server in the public safety building, which would be a more secure and a more modern facility? Anyway, that was some of that rationale at the time. Yes, I also would question, aside from that, the necessity to have a system in place to run the courthouse on the rare circumstance that the courthouse is down with no power and the rest of the county's kind of up and going and is okay. How often does that happen? The opposite is true. We tend to have power outages in the country, and the middle of town is back up and running a little more quickly. So that's my thought.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just several things. With this past power outage, one of the comments that was made by one of the board members was about employees making it to work on both these situations. Employees were there. The second day, even when the courthouse was closed, all employees did come till they were told to go home. They did a few things on the first floor. But if we look into this, I would strongly urge we look at something that would certainly be compatible for a new courthouse, that can certainly work in conjunction with the old and the new once the new is put on. I think that definitely has to be looked into. And with these generators, I mean, even though here our generator ran for 2 days for the administration. And speaking with Mr. Hart, I kept close contacts with him. We had went around to each floor and we started turning lights off. We started turning things off that we were not using just so we wouldn't have to turn the air off. That was the whole idea. I mean, the generators aren't a perfect fix for several days of outage either. I mean, there's still work to be done. Do I think one is needed? Absolutely. But I think we have to certainly look at the cost, and the cost, like I said, to make sure it's compatible for whatever we decide to add or build new. We don't want to have to go through all that and redo everything. And just a couple other comments too. I'd like to thank Bob. I mean, I know Bob was on top of things during these outages. We kept in close contact. We never did have to turn the air off there, I don't believe, did we, Bob?
No.
In the 2 days, I mean, every floor, they were all working together. Like I said, turning lights down, turning copiers off when we weren't using them, saving the amperage, was it, or?
Yes, gotta keep the amperage down, or it'll kick out on overload.
So, anyway, you know, we certainly thought it was easier working with a little less light than it was without any air. But again, I'd like to thank all the department heads for their help and that kind of stuff, and Bob for staying in close contact.
Ms. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think if you're going to pursue this, first of all, I'd like to see some information on the size of these servers. If you go to an integrated system, what the energy requirements are going to be for these servers, because data storage is getting more and more compact. Things are getting smaller instead of bigger and can do a lot more work, much more powerful. The other thing is, if you're going to look at generators, while we're at it, let's see what we can tap into with the Clean Illinois Energy Fund and see if we can work out something with solar panels. There's a lot of rooftop on that courthouse. At least start exploring options, because we keep seeing the same old options, diesel, gas, and if you're looking here, it's spending, it looks like over close to $300,000 on generator costs. That's 1/3 of what's in our contingency fund right now. So, you know, why not look at alternatives? You know, we don't always have to be the last in line. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bernard. Mr. Rosser.
So where are we on the natural gas availability issue?
From what I understand, and I don't have all the details yet, but is that it would be very expensive, and then we would have to cut through several roads to get it in there, and it was just become more trouble than what it was worth.
And that would be the cost to the county?
Yes.
Because the service isn't there and we need to get the service to that site.
That's the way I understand it. I'm doing some more research to verify that.
And I guess isn't going to participate in that, is that what you're saying?
No, not at this point. I haven't had a conversation with them, but from talking to Randy and checking my paperwork on it, that's where we're at.
Well, again, what I recollect from the discussion 3 years ago is that diesel is not a real attractive alternative either.
Yeah, we have issues with diesel. I mean,
Because you need a, what, 1,000-gallon tank sitting outside the courthouse?
it would be approximately.
You know, that's, from a security standpoint, that's a little bit.
And I recommended natural gas because, you know, if you have an ice storm, the people that supply your diesel, they're out of electricity too. So I mean, there is issues with that. It's not a perfect system, that's for sure.
Mr. Tripp, good morning.
Good morning. Didn't have anything important to do. Why don't we get these things? Yeah, we're talking about fixing the generator. Talking for about 2 years on it. What about we haven't done any studies yet as far as combination unit, gas, fuel oil,
This is
combination.
what you have in front of you.
We don't have much, and there's a lot of changes in that courthouse. I'm sure there's changes over the last 8 or 10 years. So that to update all this, we need to get back out and get some more prices and get some new ideas. There's like Ann had said, there's a lot of new things. You know, I don't know about wind power, but, you know, let's hope the wind's blowing when you need it. But I think another study would be good. Go back to KJWW, they're top notch on this kind of thing. And let's get some more information on it, and before we can move one way or another, doesn't hurt to get information. And I think I would like to see us look at some combination unit that would consider fuel oil and gas or something of that sort.
Thank you, Mr. Tripp. Mr. James?
Yes. It's one thing that do studies all the time on what this equipment's gonna cost and everything, but I'd be interested in knowing just whether or not we're down that much that we can even justify spending money on the study. Now, how many times do we have some records? How many times has this courthouse been shut down? And how many days have we lost? You know, it's one thing to be down 2 days, but we've got people taking sick leave more than that, for crying out loud. We managed to run the courthouse. So I'm concerned as to exactly whether or not this is even justifiable to go that far. I want to know how much downtime we really have. How much are we really talking dollars and cents and in service that we're really not providing? Because we all know that what we're looking at is going to be pretty much cost prohibitive. We've done enough research on that already. And we know that in 5 years, whatever we do is probably going to be about 50% obsolete anyway. So we better darn well be able to justify the expense by proof that we really need it. That's my concern. Thank you.
Why don't we move ahead, oh, I don't want to cut anybody else. Why don't we move ahead by saying, first of all, how many days the courthouse has been down? Maybe we look back 5 years. Maybe if we can, we'll find a way to do that. With how many times it's been closed due to that kind of storm, maybe outside of snow. And then from there, make the decision that this committee, hopefully next month. I mean, it sounds like if we're going to go forward with a generator, we're going to go forward with a generator that's going to meet the needs of everything and not just a Band-Aid on something. I know Mr. Duvall initiated it like this with all that, and it seems like it did the job. Didn't need it to do. Mr. Duvall? I know, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, I know you walked in, but we're talking about the generator and the computer system and that. Did the current generator, did you have any problems?
The one here?
No, at the courthouse. I mean, did you have any problems with the computer system at the courthouse?
Yes.
Try.
Okay.
Have a seat right there, Mr. Duvall.
I can speak a little bit to it because actually I'm the one that initiated getting the generator about 3 years, I think, ago. You were at the committee. But the scale, the importance and the things that I were talking about is not the whole picture. I mean, it got bigger after I brought it up. Because the size of the generator we need to keep the server going and the technology going is really no bigger than what you would use on a farmhouse. But if you were going to do it, you were looking at the whole picture at that point, and that's when you needed something because you had elevators or whatever, and you wanted to keep the power going so you could maybe keep business going. So the size of the generator, the technology part, that's not a big deal. But once I believe what you came to the conclusion is once you were to address it, you needed to address the whole problem. That's when the scale got bigger. So no, you don't need a lot of power to keep the servers going. But here's the part that's important, is it's not a matter of, all right, how long were we down, whatever. That's the central hub for your whole 911 system. It's the highest point. That's how we connect Grant Park. That's how we connect Mantino. When we lost power, you lost, the police departments there lost connectivity to the centralized system. So that was important. They went blind. Now they have walkie-talkies. I'm sure, I know you know a lot about this.
Heard about it all week.
Yeah, but once again, you have a multi-million-dollar system there that a northeast part of your county lost connectivity to for however long that was down. It wasn't quite as dire this time because their towers actually got hit by lightning too, if I remember right. So regardless if you went down, they went down, but that was rare. We were the central point of failure. The other deal is, as we just discussed, or you just discussed, is we're about ready to move on in the next few months, probably, and over the next year, in implementing the integrated justice system. That's going to be $1.5 million, $2 million over time that you're going to put in there. That can't crash like you're doing now. Because what will happen is, yeah, we get the service back up, but the data will be corrupted. That's the whole historical data for the justice system in Kankakee County. So if people come to work, but they can't access correct files, you have a big problem. So that's a reason that you need to get a generator in there. My recommendation several years ago, it needed to be there before we implement that system, because it's a big deal. You can't put that much money into a technology project and have something that at its core, as you know, I've worked at other places, this is usually not even a discussion. If you have a building with that many people in it that houses that many critical stuff, it's not even usually brought to the concerns of people. It's like your air conditioner, it's like your heater, it will be there. So it's something you really need to address. The scale of it, how much you want to spend. Its technology part, even if you put it in phases, what we need is almost nothing. The size of the gas power ones or the fuel power ones that you see at Farm and Fleet, that would power everything we need to do, but it's not going to address your other concerns. And there are other places you could put it on the landing part of the courthouse. But I know you've got other concerns you have to deal with at the same time. One thing I do recommend though, and this is a part where I'm not an electrician, but I know enough about this, because we have to tie into that, you need a whole building surge protection too. Because it's not just the losing of power that affects our systems, because I did lose several machines, but you know, we were prepared for it, is we need surges not to happen. Because that's what goes through and blows out power supplies, blows out chips, or corrupts data at that time when it comes through. Because I mean, it's a computer, but it's an electronic file. If you interrupt the electrical charge where that happens, that corrupts that. And hopefully we can get it off a backup if it happens, but if that machine, that backup's an electronic device too. So you have some total concerns that you really need to deal with it. I've been dealing with, before Bob, I was dealing with Delbert about it. He had researched it, but I think he did phone call research. I don't know if there's any paperwork that you go draw upon. So, and I know Bob could probably knows as much, if not more, about the situation. But it's not just a matter of bodies going back to work. It's crucial. It is the hub for your existing 911 system for a certain portion of there, and the fact that you're going to implement another multi-million-dollar computer system, this should be like breathing. It should be part of your structure before you get in there. I don't know if I went on too long.
No, that's fine. I appreciate the information. Yeah, because you're the information guy. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I realize that we haven't had that many power outages, but I think in the future we will. If you talk to ComEd guys who used to work for ComEd, retired ComEd guys, they'll tell you that ComEd now has less crews, and that's why it took them so long to get everything up this last time, and they outsource. Whenever they have a crisis like this, they start calling people to come and help that they're not on the payroll normally, and they've cut back a lot. So our infrastructure is getting older. More people are tacking on to that infrastructure that's old, and you're going to have more power outages. That probably doesn't even take that much of a rainstorm anymore to out some part of the city. So I think that's going to be a future crisis constantly. But I think Ann has a good point that we should look into solar panels maybe to work that generator, and I'd like to see the cost on that, and maybe see if Ed Pyatt's office can help us with grant money for that. I think that we really should get some information on that.
Well, like I said, why don't we move this, I don't know, any motion to move it forward? I mean, we've already started on it, so why don't we take the study back up, we'll answer your questions about, you know, days lost. Mr. Duvall brought up some good points, you know, Mr. Hart, we can follow up on that kind of stuff. Alternative methods of generators, wind, solar.
And funding for it, as part of budget.
Right. Anything like that, squirrels, you get some squirrels, maybe we could run that stuff like that too. Hey, whatever it takes.
That sounds pretty cool.
Thank you. All right, yeah.
I just had a quick question. I think Kevin brought up a good point about surge protection.
Mhm.
And if we could get prices on that, because I think getting the surge protectors would be a greater priority than the generator if you have to prioritize. The other thing is that, the other question I had is how much did this study cost so far, what we've got?
I think according to the minutes, it was $9,000.
9,000, okay, because I'm concerned because they're mentioning the prices are 2004 prices, and it doesn't even account for the higher prices of steel and copper on that. And the other thing is, what are we doing, if I could ask Kevin, what are we doing for data backup? Because he mentioned data could be corrupted, and so I certainly hope we have other areas we're backing up this
Well, we're
information.
kind of getting off the subject here.
No, but I just want to make sure that we cover that before we go, because I'm concerned if data's getting corrupted.
Well,
we
he'll
don't
still
have
be here,
data.
we'll ask him.
All right.
Okay. All right. Anything else under old business?
Can I follow,
Mr. Bossert?
can I follow up?
Oh, sure.
January 26th of '05, the motion was to seek bids on all, there were several generators under discussion at that point.
Yes.
It wasn't just the courthouse. Treasurer's office.
Treasurer's office. Right.
What else? Highway?
We implemented highway.
How did we implement highway?
Highway's been on.
Highway's
got
theirs. They have one.
They've been there for
They took
over.
care
And
of
it went through their committee and never came back to this committee.
I must have, I
He
don't
had
know,
it in his
I know they
budget.
have one.
VAC.
So they handled the bid themselves?
Yes.
They must have, I really don't know.
Treasurer's office, what happened there?
I have no idea.
Nothing, okay.
Never shut them.
All right.
Thank you.
Is that it? Mr. Vickery?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good
Morning.
morning. Bob, is there a way to connect the treasurer's office through that tunnel to our present generator in this building?
I would have to check the load capacity. I don't know if we're capable of doing it. Like Kelly said, we were shutting lights off and other things, so I think if we put another building on it, I really doubt if we'd be able to handle it. But that building's small enough, it would be a small unit too. It wouldn't be expensive like a courthouse.
Could be an extension cord or something.
No, but personally, I think if we were shutting lights off in this building, I doubt if we had capability.
That answers the question. I think, I posed this question to State's Attorney Boyd, and there may be some funding in Kathy Thomas's area there with the installation of this new system. So I would ask Mr. Boyd to explore that. Okay, I think the issue here is funding. I think that's the main issue.
Thank you. Larry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe you might be able to answer, considering what Mr. DeBall said, maybe we can address him for clarity's sake. I guess what I wanted to know was, during this last outage, did we have what we had in place in the generator? Did he say that those systems went down?
You want to answer that, Mr. Duval?
Yes, we're on 24/7 call, so we knew it was happening, so we came in, yes. There was not enough charge to, we tried to bring up, all the machines, everything went down. And we planned for that. We have UPS units, but all that does is give you like 5 to 8 minutes to go shut things down nicely so you don't get the data corrupted.
And that's my concern, is the corruption of the data.
Right, well, but even though we're on call 24/7, we're not there 24/7. I don't think we want to go hire people just to sit there and wait for that. So once you're not there, after that 5 or 8 minutes, it's going to go down regardless of whether or not you did it nicely or not, and then that's when you have the problem. But yes, all the machines went down at that time, and every few hours we tried to start up. We did not have enough charge to start, and I was there doing it personally, to get one workstation to come up. It would not even power the light on one workstation. There was no way to recover that. We lost it. While it may not sound critical, we lost email for 911, for the sheriff's department, for everybody, because the email servers in our building, which has a nice generator. But 2/3 of the county resort employees are in other buildings. That's the hub. That went down. Everybody lost it. Well, as anybody knows, if you deal with the sheriff's department or 911, email is crucial to the communication. That went down. The email server was running fine, but the way that it routes through. So we lost a lot of things that were crucial to this integrated system that you're building. All the hardware was done. It's not enough charge to put it in, even though you had, I think you said one leg going
Yeah,
on
we
there.
had one leg.
But I'm sure that leg was going to its basic functions. You know,
Well, it was just random that one was up and it was part of the lights were on. There was no rhyme or reason to it. It's what ComEd lost.
And on dealing with what you asked about the surge protection, what I was talking, we do, just so you know, I don't want you to be concerned about, we have surge protection UPS units on every computer device. What I was talking about, and you gotta remember, those aren't as good as having a whole building surge protection where it regulates it, and that's where I was talking about. That's a minimal cost, something that you put in, I'm gonna say in the beginning of the section, but it makes sure you don't get those drops and those peaks, and that's what's damaging to it.
Okay.
And I guess the follow-up question would be to that. I mean, if we get this integrated justice system in, we talked about some generators that might be big enough to take care of a farmhouse. Is this something, I mean, how big of a generator would we need to have this complete system running?
Well,
I mean, is that, I mean,
that's
and I understand,
Right,
but I
that's
mean,
what
I just
we're
want
gonna
that to be thought of. I mean, it might not be enough to take care of the whole courthouse, but I mean, the data is, I think, is the most important part there.
Right, well, I think.
That's my
seems
biggest
like the feeling of
concern.
the committee is, let's move ahead, answer those questions, see what it'll take to, what type of generator it'll take to take care of the entire courthouse and that system first. And then, move, if we have to move down from there, do that. But if we're gonna do it once. Do it right. Okay? Any new business?
Sam, real quick. I've said as quietly as I can for as long as I can. I know it's driving Sam nuts that I'm speaking. However, I appreciate that it's a financial concern, and I appreciate that we have to have a backup generator for the computer system. My concern is, if this committee only goes far enough to get us a backup generator for the computer system, we're going to have issues with regard to when the courthouse is open or partially open when we have a power outage, and that becomes a public safety concern. I would ask this committee, and I'm sure Judge Erickson, if he were here, would agree, if at all possible, to get us a generator system that will make it possible for us to actually do business at the courthouse, if that means 2 separate generators or whatever. But the operation of the computers is absolutely vital, but I don't want anybody to think if we do that, that means we're going to have any kind of business in the courthouse when we don't have power. Because the sheriff and I discussed it during the last power outage, and it is a public safety issue as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just follow up I'll follow up to Mr. Boyd. I was thinking of asking him to comment on might point out what crucial functions need to happen in a power outage in the courthouse. I know there are several. There was comments we saw in the email about orders of protection and, you know, that type of thing. Can you comment to that?
The business of the courthouse, I guess the vital business of the courthouse on a daily basis, is that we are required by law to bring anybody who has been arrested in the past 24 hours before a judge for the opportunity to post bond and be heard on whether they should remain in custody. That's number one. Number two are the emergency order of protection cases, and any matter that has been set either for a special hearing or an emergency hearing, be it a domestic violence case, a custody case, and in some cases, injunctions or, well, I guess matters of that nature that are very time sensitive that the law does not allow us to simply continue on. So those would be the 3 areas that are absolutely vital. Just so we're clear, when we had the power outage, the sheriff and I, with the cooperation of the chief judge, were able to move the orders of protection and the what we call holiday court, and we treated it as holiday court, down to the facilities at the Jerome Combs Detention Center. And it worked out. So it's not like we couldn't do it, but you know, we had to improvise, and I think with everybody's help, it worked out okay.
Mr. Bernard?
Would there be any harm, I don't know if we're doing this now, but as far as when something's issued like an order of protection, is there any way that we can send it to a remote location? So let's say there's no power in the courthouse, but you have a laptop, you can step outside, you can access it on a laptop via a remote site, just like you can access your email on the internet? Can we look into doing that too, just as a backup, just in case?
Well, let's bring it up in criminal justice. That's
All right,
the place
well,
to
that's what
start.
I'm saying, but I mean, as
Yeah.
far as, because it's playing into this need for this generator and this other stuff, so.
Long way to run. Anything else? Mr. James?
Thank you. Mr. Boyd, I have a question for you.
This is concerning the generator,
May I?
right?
Well, it concerns what he discussed in terms of the need of a generator. So yeah, it's pertinent to it. In all the legislation that we have that says we must do this within certain windows of opportunity and timeframes, is there not a clause in there whereby an act of God prevails? In other words, we're not going to get sued. The point is this: if we don't, let's just say we can't move on this. Let's just say that nothing, and all of a sudden these cases come up and the guy says, well, I didn't get my fair treatment in 24 hours like I should have. Are we liable? I mean, if, in the case of an act of God?
You want the short answer?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's good enough.
There are details to it, and I'll talk
That's
to you
all I
after
wanna
the meeting,
know.
but the short
Yeah,
answer is, yes, we are liable, yes, we will be sued, and yes, we'll lose.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
And where are we on this thing?
I don't know, I made two announcements on the same thing.
Are we on new
So we're
business?
going forward. Pardon?
Where are we on the agenda?
We're trying to get the new business.
Oh, okay.
Again, trying to restart that engine right now.
You need a generator to get that new business
Generator right
started.
now. Oh, let's say generator. Anything else on the new business? Ms. Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What are we doing to conserve energy? As far as, do we have any, I know we've got some energy saving things we did several years ago, but are we doing anything to actively promote, if it's not used, turn off the lights? Because I heard somebody mention that, to say when they were running the generators, they would go around and turn off the lights that weren't being used and stuff. Shouldn't we be doing that, you know, on a consistent basis anyhow, or have timers, or what do you call those things, eyes, electric eyes, or whatever that can...
That's a good point. I thought the same thing when I was saying.
So, I mean, what are we doing for that? We need to look into that. If an area is not used, the light should be off.
The lights, we do not, we shut off the majority of the lights in the building, especially in the courthouse, but there are certain lights on that we need to keep on for the camera system so that they're not on motion sensors, they're just on all the time. We
Yeah,
could
but
put
we, maybe in this, you know, do we have motion sensors in the rest of our buildings? I mean, that's something we need to look into.
I could look into that. I don't know all the details of what we have and what we don't have. I do know we shut the HVAC systems
All the
off
bathrooms
during the
got
night,
motion sensors.
but as far as
Alright.
motion sensors for lights.
I think we're, you know, I'm sure you can always do more, but I think we do a pretty good
You
job.
don't need them, right?
Anything else in the new business?
Put more windows in.
Motion to adjourn made by Mr. James, seconded by Mr. Whitus. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Yeah, second that.
Opposed? Motion carries.